Well, just one more thing before we go. The issue of floods all over the nation. Just recently we found this report released on Yobe State, how so many communities have been flooded, and yet guess what? The people refuse to leave because they don't know where else to go. And it's not only Yobe, of course. Countless communities in Lagos. Let's go straight to the conversation this morning with Professor Mansour Bako, who is Director General and Chief Executive Officer of NIMET. Thanks for joining us this morning, Prof.
Yeah, thank you.
What can you factor as being the reason for this?
Say again, please.
So from time to time.
All right, Prof, he was just trying to find out, look, in terms of you giving us a general scenario in terms of how, is there any immediate cause of concern at the moment?
Yeah, thank you very much, and good morning, Nigerians. You recall earlier this year, precisely February, we've issued out our seasonal rainfall predictions, which highlights areas of possible extreme events, especially between the month of July and September. And also that was followed up by also annual flood outlook that was issued in April by a Nigerian Hydrological Agency, and which all serve as early warning tools with decision support informations and advisories for different stakeholders, especially regarding floods in the country. So the summary of the forecast as issued in February was that Nigeria was going to have a normal and above normal rainfall. And this also was also triggered by issues of extreme events that we have seen of recent in Lagos, which was flooded some weeks ago, and this followed up with flood episodes in Yobe and many parts of the north. Presently, the ITD is at its peak, more than 20 degrees north in Niger Republic, and the most active weather system lies in the northern parts of the country. So we've issued enough early warning signals to different user stakeholders, and most of which contains mitigative and adaptive measures that should be taken by different MDS, especially city planners, urban and regional planning departments and agencies of governments, and of course also the Nigerian Emergency Management Agency, NIMA. But I think what we're seeing is the issue of non-compliance to some of these advisories, whereby residents tend to deposit refuse in drainages, and also at times also we cut down to a lot of trees around communities, which triggered overland runoff. So the general scenario now is that we're going to see more of this flood because the recent analysis we have run on the SPI, which gives soil moisture condition in the country, that there's a lot high soil moisture with little amount of rain could have a lot of floods, as we are seeing. Another reason also is concretization, especially in urbanization. In most urban areas, we tend to do most of the construction without considering creating green covers. And this also requires a lot of planning because even drainages requires information from NIMET to be able to design appropriate drainage that could evacuate excess runoff. So we're seeing a global concern especially with regard to climate change, and we're having localized factors. So more floods are coming, and we advise MDS, especially at state and local government level, to be able to advise people living on floodplain and flood-prone areas to be able to evacuate. We have excellent relationship with the National Emergency Management Agency, and which consume our forecast and also relay the information. So this is the most active period between July, August, and September. It's only the southwest that is having a few weeks break now with regards to rainfall activities.
Well, Prof, you said recently that weather forecasts are important to absolutely everything that we do, from going out in the morning to going to the market, yes, to going to the farms, even to health issues. But then there is also that issue you raised about the residents. It's a little bit confusing because one wonders, there is a responsibility for various stakeholders, as you mentioned, ministries, departments, and agencies that ought to do one thing or the other to ensure that things don't get as bad as they get. So, are there consequences for such MDAs that do not do the needful? One of which is warning people about these things and avoiding a case in such an example in Yobe where some residents refuse to move from a flooded area.
Provision of weather climate services is a very comprehensive value chain which requires effective coordination. At our level, we provide the service as producers, and then we relate such information to relevant MDAs in agriculture, water resources, environment, early warning, health, construction, roads, and transportations. And so this serves as enablers. These MDAs now consume the information and relay. And the most critical aspect of in the value chain is there's a scenario, a slogan that is termed early warning requires early action. So the missing link we are having is the response. We've been relating and downscaling most of this focus because we involve various stakeholders during our seasonal climate prediction and public presentation that was issued in February by our minister, and also at state level. So response is the issue now, how communities consider weather, climate information and forecast, and also how they respond to it. Because early ab initio, we think that weather has been a natural phenomenon and human being has nothing to do about it. But we have realized that with uptake of weather information, you tend to avoid risks by more than 90% and also improve livelihoods. In terms of response by MDAs, I can say at the federal level, we've been experiencing excellent relationship with horizontal coordination and flow of information, and even getting feedbacks. But there's an element of mislink down the vertical link with the state governments. And we always advise that state governments should align their activities, especially with relevant MDAs that relay such of this information. I will give an example with agriculture and also early warning. In some states that we've had collaboration under certain partnership, communities even at district level get such information through their what they call climate change agents and lead farmers. And as such communities tend to align their activities based on the focus and thereby reduce risk. So compliance is the missing link here, and we also advise that Nigerians should take weather forecast very seriously because if you spend 1 naira in providing early warning system or information, you're avoiding the eightfold of that in terms of destructions and damages that such extreme events could cause, as we have seen in many parts of the country.
Well, you spoke about those who live in floodplains, and which unfortunately shouldn't be, because if the town planning authorities had been doing their jobs, such a thing probably wouldn't have happened. But now it has happened. What do you do in a case, for instance, where women, children, the elderly are living in communities where they cannot afford to leave because they do not have economic power to vacate their homes? And is this something that the states should be taking on, relocating them to some other places?
Yeah, thank you so much. As I have said, there are many government MDS that are responsible for this. In our case, we issued such forecasts and also liaised with such MDS. But at the state level, we have the State Emergency Management Agencies, known as SEMAs, and we also ought to have local emergency management agencies, which are responsible to coordinate most of this, identify vulnerable areas, and also try to provide early warning information for evacuation. So we advise states are responsible for providing temporary camps, especially in areas where we have flood imminent occurrence, especially as we are seeing now in the next few weeks, we are going to have a combination of high amount of rainfall, which high volume inflow from most of these our localized and the two other international rivers of River Niger and Benue. And this eventually will inundate flood-prone areas and thereby also ravage communities. So it's for states through the SEMAs to conduct vulnerability assessments and also provide effective coordination by informing people that are living on such areas and also evacuating to temporary sites.
And I think
we ought to implement what we call integrated flood management system, whereby all stakeholders are involved in the value chain.
And I think the information part is quite critical, at least so people can know what to expect. Just quickly, two issues quickly. I don't know if we could take it on. So you said, yeah, we're done with July, but we're still faced with August, September, maybe October. In terms of rating the years, 2021, 2020, I know that it was maybe higher than normal. You've said that this year is normal and above normal. Does that mean that we'll see more floods this year compared to what we've seen in previous years? Because it looks like, you know, one year keeps topping the previous. What is the outlook first for this year?
Actually, we're having pretty high precision, especially based on the focus of over 95%, based on the issued documents that we have released to public. Globally, because of issues regarding climate change, we've seen extreme events in Australia, we've seen in Europe heat waves, and of course flood and forest fires in many continents. And this also is an indicator of climate change and responsible for extreme events. In the last 1.5 months, in June precisely, we've had the hottest month ever also recorded globally. So this year is going to have, as compared to last year, a little bit above normal activities with more rains. The issue is we are having a warmer atmosphere, and a warmer atmosphere means that there will be more evapotranspiration and thereby more rainfall activities. And what we are seeing now with regard to rainfall pattern that cause most of these flash floods and other riverine flood is increasing rainfall intensity, because the amount of rain that falls within a particular unit time tend to increase, and this block or soil pore spaces and thereby enhance surface runoff, which also coupled with also the concretization.
Well, Prof, in 60 seconds, so it's good you have given us this prediction. In 60 seconds, I mean, saying the flood in Kentucky, 28 people killed so far, and that's in the United States, and we have predictions here as well. You've talked about climate change. The president just appointed a head for the National Council on Climate Change. Apparently that's the position. For us as a nation, really, is there any stopping this by what we do? Yes, prediction, but in terms of climate change, our activities, is there a way we can do something to reduce this? If you can do that in 60 seconds.
Yeah, thank you so much. I think I used to mention in most platforms that with regard to climate change, we have 3 options. And the options are adaptation, mitigation, and suffering. So it depends on how we do the mix of adaptation, mitigation, and then less suffering. And if we do less of the two, then there will be more suffering, as we've been seeing. As a country, in terms of policy and implementation, I think we are doing pretty well. We interface with the Department of Climate Change that handles most of adaptation. I know we have a standardized adaptation plan and also mitigative actions that the Federal Ministry of Environment is coordinating. But the most critical factor is compliance by citizens, which also requires massive sensitization activities.
Okay.
I want also Nigerians to take weather focus and weather information very serious and continue to be weather-wise. Thank you.
We have to thank you very much, Prof, for that, and hope that the citizens themselves will take heed to this council. It's not a culture we have. Hopefully we will adopt it now. Professor Mansour Bako is Director General, Chief Executive Officer of NIMET. Thanks again for your time this morning.
Thank you.